Welcome back to Raw the Podcast. I'm your host, Allie, founder of the Cheeky Clean wellness brand, empowering conscious consuming, and your host for vulnerable conversations and real, authentic experience that helps us all become inspired to think and live differently. I am so honored today to introduce my guest, Lisa Gianvito. Our friendship has continued to blossom and grow since meeting her. She inspires me to grow. She does the work herself, and she is such a selfless and beautiful individual and a complete mark of what happens when we learn to love ourselves and walk the hard journey of unlearned patterns to grow and become our best versions. Lisa has owned a business. She's taught yoga all around the city. She's been a Reiki master and a life coach, helping so many people. And now she's here today to talk about many things, from sobriety to how she's overcome traumas of her own, to doing the hard work and what she does on a day-to-day basis to continue to stay grounded in what matters and ultimately change the complete outlook of her life and what she's creating next. Lisa is one of those people that inspires me every day to become a better version of myself. She tells me the hard stuff I need to hear, and she supports me in ways that I couldn't be more grateful for. As Dr. Joe Dispenza said, when you get enough people to change themselves, you change the world. And we believe knowledge is the precursor to experience. It's my honor today to open up our genuine, real conversation into both our healing journeys in order to inspire you and plant seeds to see how you too can start the process that is so powerful of changing your internal world, which shifts everything else around you. With that, welcome Lisa to Raw the Podcast. Let's get into it. Lisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Truly honored to have you in a forum where I can introduce you to the Cheeky community formally. I've written about you a lot. I don't know if you've seen my Substack recently.
Oh, I read all your stuff.
I love you, but it's always like this wise being Lisa who came into my world, changed it all, and
or scared the shit out of you.
maybe both, which is why I love you. And it's funny because June, I had a whole guest list over the last month of people that I was going to have on, and I was getting very caught up in what do people want to hear? And I got overwhelmed with that. Root of why I started the podcast in the first place, the purpose was to just share my authentic journey and align with what was speaking to me and resonated with me, and sharing that with others as resources that could help them heal as well. And when I was getting caught up in this planning and less of the embodying, I pulled back on all the guests and kind of just took a beat over the last few weeks and did a few solo episodes. And you and I met last week, and I shared with you where I was at in this process. 2 podcasts ago, I talked a little bit about being on the uncharted waters of the unknown, which is kind of where I feel like I am right now. And for whatever reason, earlier this week, I'm like, it'd be really cool to have you on. All of our conversations really help me find clarity, inspiration, guidance, and wisdom. And it might be valuable for someone else to hear the conversations that we're having and take pieces and parts of that to not only become inspired, but energized to stay on the journey.
Well, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. I'm incredibly grateful that you asked me to do this, because it has been such an honor to watch your journey. And people should know that our coffee meetups are like 3 hours. Like, it's always starts slow and then it's like lunchtime,
When we're in our zone, it's like the rest of the world doesn't exist, because we really just, nothing else matters. And it's such engulfment, I feel like, in the discussions that we're having, because they're so real and genuine and raw, honestly.
Very.
Hence the name of the podcast and why we need to share it with the world.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's funny because I do end up going forever, and I'm like, shoot, you probably got to get back to your life, girl.
Oh, no. I always make time for you, friend.
I
Always.
appreciate that so much.
Yeah. And it's something that I've learned in my going under, in my hiding period of my life, is to be 100% present with the person that I'm with.
Mm.
And I see that and feel that when our time together, because the world does disappear. And
Mhm.
I really feel your energy. And you know how our conversations flow. It's like spirit is like talking through me. And I'm like, well, that was good. That was really good advice. I should write that down.
And
Yeah.
sometimes I tell you things that hindsight wise, I'm like, remember when you said this? And you're like, I said that?
Right. Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
do think it's sometimes a higher power that comes through in those types of present aligned conversations that are so meaningful.
Yeah.
Relationships really are a mirror and guiding lights if you're willing to be present and open and listen. And from the moment I met you, you have just given me such incredible guidance
Thank
that is invaluable for me. And so to see our friendship just bloom and
you. Right.
become something that's truly one of, if not the most important relationship in my life, like
Thank you.
I'm so
Don't make
grateful.
me cry.
I know we are going to cry. I have a feeling.
Yeah.
I did want to tell you, speaking of crying, we might as well get it out of the way now. I usually record on Thursdays.
Okay.
I mentioned that to you.
Yes.
But this week I went to, have you heard of the Cleveland Shambhala Center?
Shambhala.
How cool of a place.
Yeah.
I went there last night for a meditation and I loved it. I'm like, wow, people just getting together to.
Is it Buddhist meditation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we chanted
Yeah.
and we did silent meditation and then walking meditation and just to be chanting with other people and in a room. You know
Right.
how, Dr. Joe, it's like we do a lot of the work on our own, but when you can actually be together with other people who are in the work,
Yeah.
it's an energy that builds.
Yeah. I think even when we listen, like when I listen to Dr. Joe at night, when I have them in my headphones, like I can put myself right back in that room and I feel my boyfriend just talking to me, right? The whole, like my whole insides light up and, you know.
Lisa calls Dr. Joe her boyfriend.
That's right.
Because
And my husband's fine with it.
Yeah,
Like
he knows that you have this
yeah,
boyfriend.
he calls him DJ.
That's hilarious. You've never told me that before.
Yeah.
That's
Are
so
we
cute.
doing DJ tonight?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that he's doing the work with you.
Oh yeah. That's like, is a guy that was never, ever going to meditate. It is just not in his realm of thinking. And I think as he was watching me evolve and change, he was like, I want some of that. What are you doing? What's going on? And we just started with, I think it was 2 minutes.
So why did you start meditating in the first place? Was there something that you wanted to change or those habits just weren't serving you anymore?
Is there something that I wanted to change? I wanted to change everything about me. I did not like myself. And I could go as far to say that I hated who I was. Like there was nothing. And on the outside, it was shiny and perfect. And, I think everybody has assumptions about everybody. But for me, I was doing all the things and making everybody happy and trying to protect everybody and just having the answers and doing this. And I lost myself completely. And to be honest, I don't even think I knew who I was my entire life because I've always been told how to do it, what to do, what to say. And I was at a breaking point in my life that to me, it felt like do or die. And this is such a cliche when I hear stories. I'm like, you were on your floor too? I was literally on my closet floor crying, hyperventilating, crying. And my husband had no idea what to do with me. And I was just like, I hate myself. And he couldn't figure it out. And he didn't know what to do or say. So I cried for like 2 hours and he just held me. And I'm like, I got to figure something out. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I think growing up, I've always thought something was wrong with me because that was a language that my parents used because they didn't have different language, which is all good. And so when I decided to strip away everything that I turned to escape when I don't feel good, the first one was alcohol, because I drank wine. And I would have a glass or two of wine every day or 5 days a week. And when somebody says, I only have one glass, nobody pours 5 ounces.
Totally.
I'm sorry, but you just don't.
Totally.
So, yeah. And then it just became a habit. And I'm like, what am I doing? This is stupid. It's a waste of my time, my energy, my vibration is so low. I don't like myself. I don't like what I'm doing.
There's a reason why we're pouring the wine in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think sobriety is so interesting because I'm new to that journey. And new to understanding what that means for me.
Right.
And it's hard to sometimes explain when people ask if I'm sober. It doesn't necessarily mean that because you're sober and you're making that conscious choice that you were in jail fucking your life up because you
Right.
were drinking too much. Like
Right.
it's truly just, as you mentioned, a tool to start down the path of a higher version of living and raising your vibration. Because why I was just having a glass of wine or two every night was for very similar reasons. And it's to escape something or to feel better about something or to numb something. And for me, it was compounded times 10 in how much pot I was smoking. That definitely was next level addiction that I'm learning. But I think we've normalized drinking so much as a society that we don't always realize what true change can be kicked off by just making that conscious choice. And when I got close with you and realized that that was a conscious choice that you made and it's not part of your life and it's not because it was your identity before, I found that just really inspiring and something that encouraged me even more so to go down the path because it wasn't this big disease that I had,
Right.
which is such a misconception.
It is a very, very big misconception. I think in those moments, as you and I have talked about a lot, when you're in your darkest hour, those are the biggest gifts you'll ever receive. And in the moment, you don't feel like it's a gift. But, when I was just asking God every day, just guide me, just show me what to do. I don't know what to do. Where do I go? And I was guided to this meditation, and I was guided to doing Qigong, and I was guided to Dr. Joe that same month. I was guided to finding Kundalini, breath work, and meditation. And I stepped away from the outside world and decided to take a super deep dive inside of me to figure out what was working and what wasn't working. And I think in that process, you realize not just who you are, you find, but you also have this sense of who's important in your life, and you watch people fall away, and it becomes, like I've shared with you, it becomes extremely lonely, extremely lonely. Healing is a lonely work, when you're in it. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I'm just going to go back to being that old person because I'm so lonely. Like no one's talking to me. I'm not getting invited anywhere, blah, blah, blah. And when that fear comes up, because that's exactly what it is, I also look at that now and say, thank you. Thank you. Because now I'm going to sit back down. What I tell you all the time, sit down, sit down. And that has been the biggest change in my life for my mental health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health is sit down.
Because so often it's the learned pattern to do or react. And I think I'm in that space currently of the like middle of the river of the unknown where sometimes the fear makes me think maybe I should be like rowing backwards. How much lonelier can it get if I keep going forwards,
Yeah.
And
That's your test.
yeah.
That's the test, and it's in those moments. I was sharing with somebody yesterday who was so angry at somebody in their family because they weren't doing it how they thought they should do it. And I was like, but that's not your life. It's not personal. They are reflecting back to you what you need to learn, and they are a gift. And you're saying, oh, no, thank you, universe. I don't need to learn anything else. I'm good. And so all those moments that you're feeling lonely, you're feeling left out, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you, those those are the gems. You just have to sit down with them
Yeah, exactly.
and not react.
Yeah.
We know that from Kabbalah, right?
Kabbalah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think why our friendship is so powerful for me is because we have very similar traits in that from the outside, especially before you did all this work, right? You owned a salon, you ran a business, then you were hosting retreats and teaching yoga classes, one of the most powerful yoga teachers around. I mean, you were the epitome of what someone would look at and say, I want to be like her. But inside, You were
dying.
dying. And that is how I have felt over the last few years. I was in this fog of grief for so long and story around that grief that I wasn't ready or able to really dig in and realize these self-hate tendencies that I was carrying and things that I've learned over a lifetime.
Right.
And instead, it was easier to just react in anger and rage because of what I've lost and project over what I've lost and then zip it up and put on this show and get this external praise of you got it all together, so I must have it all together. But the pain of feeling so misaligned inside catches up eventually. And at a certain point, it's like you have no option but to make a shift. I think when I met you, I was in a dark place, but I wasn't even close to a level of consciousness yet. Now I'm in a level of consciousness where I'm aware of where I'm at and what I need to do to move forwards. And that awareness also comes with kind of being torn between the old me and the new me sometimes. I'm still on my way to the new me. But when we first met, I was deep in the old me.
Yes. Yes, you were. I was like, grab my hand. Just grab my hand.
It's crazy to think.
But I recognized
How much
myself in you.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty of life, of everyone that we meet, is it's all for a reason. And, seeing in you, you're saying that I helped you, but you helped me also, right? Because we're a reflection of each other.
Totally.
And by helping you heal, I help myself heal, and once we can set that ego aside, because that old Lisa was a big giant ego, right?
Same.
Just wanted validation. I wanted approval. I wanted to be loved. And when you really sit down with that, you're like, why? Why did I waste all that time wanting approval from strangers?
Yeah.
Right. And I just had to love me.
Yeah.
Be with me, sit with me.
Yeah.
And when I finally did that, my whole entire life changed. It just changed. I mean, look at you I even say from Dr. Joe to now. And sometimes when you're like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything, I'm like, what the hell? Look at you back then.
Yeah, I know. Leading up to Dr. Joe, and I don't even know if you really even realize how in the fog I was. I was at a point in my life where you were sent me from an angel and you were planting these seeds and I was willing to figure out how to water them, but it was like starting to take those baby steps. And leading up to Dr. Joe, I was deep in misaligned relationships, a misaligned lifestyle, a misaligned job, a misaligned way that I was coping with my grief. I was very much numbing myself. And those 7 days were the first time, probably in my life, that I've really sat with myself. And it was a crack open.
It was. It was.
And I say I went on a meditation retreat. This was not a woo-woo retreat. And anyone who's familiar with Lisa's boyfriend, Dr. Joe, he's very science-based, which is what really resonated with me.
Me too.
Having come from, I was in a science career. I loved school. We both loved to learn and apply. And it was this mix of not only being in it and doing the work alongside other people who were doing the work, sitting with ourselves, but then also being reinforced how this is changing the brain and how it's really moving our anatomy so that change is possible. The combination of the two is just, it's a powerful force. And we were in meditation for hours on end every day. We were not really eating a whole lot. We were walking miles somehow.
Yeah, miles. God looked out, I'm like, oh my God, we already got 10,000 steps.
Yes.
And it was all day seminar.
We were just immersed in what meditation can do for the body and the mind, both physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah.
And it was such a gift of a time to close out everything. I was still at my job, but I closed it off for the week. I've never done that. I've never taken a vacation where I didn't look at emails. I really took a vacation inside myself. And I mean, as the week went on, we were all having more profound experiences, but I was cracking open. There's no other way that I can really explain it.
Yeah.
A full crack open.
When I found that photo of you during that healing thing, and I really to this day still cannot explain what the hell happened that week.
I
Like,
know it's hard to explain. You got to just experience
you have
it.
to experience Dr. Joe to, like, it was most transformative time of my entire life was those 7 days.
Same. And that's coming from someone yourself who had already done a lot of internal personal
Yeah.
work, which is so powerful.
Yeah. And that photo, I mean, I can still see it if I close my eyes during that healing. Watching you go through that, like I was hyperventilating, crying, watching you. I think everybody in our group was like holding each other's hands and crying. And we could all just feel the energy of that. And,
Mhm.
and I was like, thank God she's here. Thank God.
I know. It is the biggest gift that's ever come into my life.
And then have it on like a photo of it,
A
like
photo of it, of all the time.
yeah, of all the 2,000 people that were there, that photo.
And the 7 days, that was the most powerful moment.
Yes.
It is crazy that it was captured. It's truly crazy. And after that, the integration back into society is tricky.
And it was very.
For me personally, I hadn't shifted a lot in my external life yet. So I was kind of catapulted back into this life.
Oh, right. Because you were still at your job.
1 week later, the exact next week later was my annual corporate sales meeting.
Yes, that's right.
Which is another immersion all on its own. Weird things were happening that entire trip. I had this deer that was following me around the whole week.
In your window.
In my window, who was letting me feed him. I've never had experience like that in my life with wildlife. I felt like such a fish out of water with my colleagues.
Mhm.
I wasn't drinking. I was going back early and getting to bed and getting up early so I could meditate. All the while, I have headphones on listening to Michael Singer's The Surrender Experiment. I'm like, just rewire. I'm like, what is going on in this 3D world? I don't know, but I don't fit in this life that I created any longer.
Right.
And I just knew in my heart I wasn't ready to admit it yet, but I knew that everything was going to shift externally because I was starting to shift internally.
Yeah.
And I have Up at Dawn in Lisa's writing tattooed on my hand, which is really just a reminder for me on a day-to-day basis of this exact shift point in my lifetime. And it's a mark and a reminder to stay the path towards the inner work and towards the inner change. We called Up at Dawn our Monday morning little session of when we would meditate together, but we all kind of committed to doing the work. And the divine hour is early in the morning. And when you can start your day with yourself and outside of your mind and in your heart, it's such a powerful way to set the tone. And, kind of committed to that as our way to together integrate back into society.
It's true.
It's
true. And just think, going back a moment, when I said, I'm going to Dr. Joe, and I've wanted to go for 3 years, but it just never worked in the schedule and all this stuff. And when I saw that it was in Nashville, it was just like super easy, early morning flights, like wouldn't have to miss anything. And I don't know if you called me and I just said, hey, I'm going, do you want to go? And you didn't even think about it. You were like, okay, I'm going. And I was like, okay. Like we've never even spent any time together.
No.
And I'm like, this girl's going 7 days with me to Nashville.
Yeah, just to go back on how Lisa and I met. So I went to one of your yoga classes.
Yeah.
It was a random morning class. It was on a weekday. It was me and one other person. And I left the class sobbing. And I put an Instagram story up basically saying, like, I'm so grateful for this woman who was my yoga teacher today. You gave us a little Reiki session and you said, you need to let yourself be held. Like, you need to allow the help into your life. You need to accept it. And I was at a place where I had just gotten divorced and I was trying to be this big, bad, independent woman and looking for love in all the wrong places and not accepting any of the genuine love that was around me and looking for it elsewhere. And it was just like a profound random experience on a Tuesday morning. And I'll never forget that. And time went by and I was just, feeling outside myself, feeling really depressed. There's only so much substance, relationship, misalignment, I guess would be the best way to put it, until you hit your breaking point.
Yes.
And I was definitely hitting my breaking point, and I didn't know what that was or what that meant. And I went and got a spray tan, the only clean spray tan in Cleveland. Shout out Everything Beauty. And
Love them.
love them. And Ceci, I just kind of, we were just catching up while she was spraying me. And I was like, I just need a non-bias, like I need just like a guiding light. Like talk therapy isn't doing it for me. I don't need to talk about these things. I need some sort of change. And she's like, I think my friend Lisa could really help you. Have you heard of her? I'm like, no, I don't know her. And then I'm like, oh, wait a minute. She was my yoga teacher once. She's like, yeah, she does like Reiki and life coaching. And it might, she wasn't even like, maybe this will help. She was like, you need to meet my friend Lisa. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds like I'll try anything, I'm a bit out of my sorts right now. And so I think I had one session with you. I was a hot mess. You were, I think, noticing that and planting some seeds for me. And I left that session and you said, I want you to do The Formula by Dr. Joe Dispenza, which is an online course, which is a really great starting point for anyone who also might be feeling misaligned and interested in this type of internal work. It's a great place to start and to learn what he's all about. I did it. And I remember texting you about it as I was going through the process and telling you like, wow, this is so incredible. This is really helping me think differently. This is like, I'm starting to really see, and I found it the other day. I wrote this list out because you have to write a list of all of the traits you don't want to be and all of the traits you do want to be. Right. And I just found that the other day. And it's so interesting because it was like sober, honest, integrity, all of these things that I'm really working towards, but at the time wasn't living in at all. And yeah, so we, I want to say we had probably 2 to 3 sessions tops when you texted me and said, I think I'm going to go to Dr. Joe's in-person retreat. I think you should come. And I was like, done. I was thinking about going to Tokyo that summer. I was going to travel around the world and like go stay in like nice hotels. Dr. Joe wasn't cheap.
No. And you had to do
a lot of work beforehand.
Yeah, you had to do the progressive program prior, which I was like, chop, chop, get busy because you need to have this done. It's a prerequisite in order to take the advanced training. And you were like, okay, done. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember telling like some of my friends, I'm like, I'm going to this meditation retreat with this woman that's my Reiki master. They're like, okay, Allie, It was funny how I was just, something told me, like, you got to do this.
It's the universe.
It's the universe that really brought us together. So to like fast forward and see what type of bond we've been able to create just from that. And, you had kind of shared at Dr. Joe that, traveling for you is kind of uncomfortable. And that even just as quickly as me and Christy said yes, it almost kind of like solidified you're going. So it was like all of us kind of like in this, not only committing to ourselves, but committing to each other that we were going on this journey, even though we didn't know each other at all. And it was such a beautiful thing to truly become family through those 7 days together.
Yeah. And I didn't know Christy either. I had just met her.
Yeah, I met her on the flight.
And you met her on the flight. I sat between the two, like, hey, this is Christy. Hey, Allison.
Now I work for her.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
Yeah. And, let's go back to my traveling thing. Because I think people have so many fears and they don't talk about them. And they're have so much shame around them.
Totally.
So I had this fear of traveling for a very long time, and I didn't really understand why. I had my first ever full-blown panic attack when I was in traveling to Wilmington, North Carolina. I thought I was dying. I didn't know what was going on. And at this time, the word anxiety, I didn't even know what that word was.
Yeah.
I've never used that word.
Yeah.
Now it's like a buzzword for everything. I didn't know I was having a panic attack. I really thought I was dying. And I was afraid to say anything to anybody because I'm like, maybe I'm going crazy, maybe I am dying. Like, I just didn't know. And then
what does a panic attack feel like for people who think, is this something I'm dealing with too? What was it like for you?
I think a lot of people have different reactions, but I felt like all of a sudden this rush of energy came up my body and I might have passed out. And then my mouth was completely dry. I wanted to throw up or something. And then my hands were just like shaking uncontrollably.
Oh my gosh.
Because I remember sitting back in the car and like sitting on my hands and just being like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
Wow.
And my mind was just racing all over the place. And it was out of control. And
Wow.
I lived in that panic state for years,
Oh my gosh.
years.
Wow.
That's how I started doing yoga. So it was a long time ago. But so that fear of traveling kind of was triggered with this anxiety. So when I thought if I travel, I'm going to have a panic attack. And I can't have the panic attack because I'm probably going to die. And then I had this other fear of elevators that just came up. I don't remember where I was. I think I was at I remember I was at a hair show in New York, and I got trapped in an elevator with other people in there, and the elevator stopped between floors, and we had to crawl out. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die in an elevator in New York. So I was away from home again, traveling, and then I was trapped in an elevator.
Yeah.
It automatically, every time I went into an elevator after that, I would just freak out, especially if they were old. I'd be like, no, thanks, I'm taking the steps.
Yeah.
My poor husband has walked so many steps. He'd be like, seriously? It's 28th floor. I'm like, I can't do it. And I would start to
my
panic. I'm like, I can't do it.
Oh.
And he's like, oh my God, fine, let's go.
Yeah. So you're taking the stairs.
Yeah, we're going on the stair.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and these are things that really hold you back. No, I would have to plan in my head, how can I get out of this? How can I do this? Right. And to make a long story short, I'll go back to when I said I've always thought something was wrong with me. I decided to go back to talk therapy like 3 years ago, I think, 2022 maybe. So they suggested that I do EMDR, which is with a finger kind of, and I don't even know how it works. It just works. It all came back. I was raped when I was 17 years old. I was given the date rape drug at a party with friends that I knew, but there was two guys there that nobody knew, but everybody thought somebody knew. And I had blocked that out. So I was away from home. I was at Ohio State and I was held down. So that suffocation feeling of the elevator and the traveling and not being at home, like that all stored in and came out like that. So sometimes when we have fears, it's not just that thing.
Yeah.
You need to dig a little bit deeper.
So it wasn't until the EMDR therapy that you really remembered this again. Oh my gosh. And you were suppressing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It affected my whole entire life.
Wow.
I was going to Ohio State, and that's where it happened. We had friends that owned a house there, so we'd always go there and party when we were in high school. It's probably not good, but whatever.
You didn't play in high school.
I know. And so my parents had this big party for me, and I was the first one. I'm the youngest of five going to college, and everybody got me all this Ohio State stuff, backpacks and sweatshirts. And I was looking like a poster child. And I went and I lasted like 2 months, and I was begging my mom on the phone all the time, like, can I please come home? And they were like, we spent all this money, and then the guilt, right?
Yeah.
And then the shame.
And like this persona that you were then carrying of being the first person in your family and everyone being so proud of you and that you can't let them all down.
Right.
I mean, that is so heavy.
For a 17, 18-year-old girl.
Yes. Wow.
And so they finally let me come home, and I went to hair school because my friend Lynn was at Ohio State Cosmetology, and they were working on their little mannequin heads. And I'm like, how long does this take? And they were like, 9 months. I'm like, 9 months? That's it? And you can have a career? And I was like, I'm in. I went home and enrolled in cos school, and it was so easy for me. Hindsight, it was exactly how it was supposed to be,
Wow.
Yeah. So I think, the message of why I explain that is because we walk around with these fears all the time, but inside that fear, there's so much more, and there's a gift in there.
Yes, there is a gift in there.
And me going through all that therapy and the EMDR, and it dove a lot deeper, was such a gift because it finally freed me. I mean, I just turned 57 years old this week, and to think that I wasted, which I don't want to say wasted, I was consumed with all of that for so many years, so many years. But everything that I've gone through has really made me the person that I am now. So it's all a gift.
And when we can start peeling back the layers and start realizing why we are protecting ourselves, that's when the real change happens.
Yeah.
And the ability to look back and say, I'm so grateful this went this
Mm.
way because now I'm this person. And even all of those years when you were, you kind of like downplay it as if like, you went to hair school and did great and whatever, but then you took it to like another level and opened up your own space and ran a business, and all throughout that time still carrying this guilt and this imposter syndrome, and
Then I worked
more to try to prove something.
Yes, my whole entire career.
Yeah. Yes. And that's how I totally relate and feel exactly with what I was doing with my corporate job too. It was just trying so hard to prove to everyone that I was worthy.
Yeah.
Because inside I felt so not.
When you have that feeling, right, it affects every single relationship in your life. When you don't feel deserving or worthy or loved, you're trying to fill that hole somewhere with something or someone.
Yeah.
And that right there is just a vicious, vicious cycle.
Yeah.
There's so many people that are dealing with anxiety and depression, which I think I probably had all my life, but really didn't have the words for that or the verbiage. And, what I would say to anybody that's dealing with any of it, it's there for a reason to teach you something. And if you are willing and you want to commit to do the work to feel better, then start and just open it up. Sit still.
Yes.
Just sit still and ask your higher power, whatever that is for you, God, the universe, the sun, the moon, the stars, it doesn't matter, but to give you guidance. And inside that guidance, ask for signs and be aware and be present in your life.
You always say, how bad do you want to change?
How bad do you want to feel good?
How bad do you want to feel good? Exactly. Because no one can make you feel good but yourself.
I ask that every day to myself when I get up at 4 a.m. How bad do you want to feel good, Lisa?
Yeah, exactly.
Because just because I've done the things I've done doesn't mean I don't have to work at it.
No, totally.
Like, I work at it every single day and I will never stop because I never want to go back.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's so powerful. Yeah. And that's the inspiration that I need to keep at this moment in my life, of just continuing to do the work and believing in the change.
Yes.
I'm in the process of teetering between the two worlds for sure. And I think as I've continued to shed things from my old life, it's empowered me, but also made me confront fear.
Yeah.
And uncomfortable feelings.
It's uncomfortable.
And that's where it was so interesting. I was listening to Mel Robbins on Lewis Howe's podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And she was saying, when it comes to manifesting, building this life you desire, it's less about the vision board of visualizing where you're going to get. And it's more about visualizing the process and how hard it's going to be on the process and how you're going to keep putting in the work when it gets hard. And that is going to manifest that future outcome, not just thinking one day I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and not doing anything to get there. And or when you start to do the work to get there, you just go back because it gets hard. You have to visualize yourself in it. And she was relating it to a marathon. She's like, at mile 13, when you want to die and your earbuds kick off, what are you going to do to keep going? That's what you need to be visualizing and manifesting, because it really is a work in progress. And it's not something that happens overnight, even though we've romanticized it in social media and life, that in one day your whole world can change and you can be this viral sensation. It's like true peace, self-love, these things that I'm looking for is just like the Olympics and winning a gold medal. You have to put in the work and the time, and it's going to get hard before it gets easier.
Yeah. And it's a full, like my husband said, it's my full-time job.
I know. And I think I'm so used to my full-time job being what does the outside world and what is external validation, like how much of that I'm getting is what I relate to success. And so it's been this mindset shift of, like you said, sitting still and getting quiet and giving that to myself and making that my full-time job, not how much external can I put out to get praise for it. It's a whole unlearning in my brain.
It is. And it's also, which I've shared with you because this is my old self. The more you push, right, the further away it gets.
Yeah.
It has to flow. And, I've watched this with you, sitting back, which has been, like I said, it's just been such a joy to watch your transformation. And I'm so proud of you. Is when you surrendered, when you allowed, right? When you listened to that voice, to read the book, to watch the show, to do the thing, the next thing you know, you're like, Lisa, you're not going to believe what just happened. I'm like, well, I kind of do,
I
you know,
know, I know.
you know, it's
Mhm.
it's just that trust in a higher power. It's that trust in the flow and the process of life.
Mhm.
Because when we, or myself, I should say, would try to do something and just push, push, push and try to control, it's me telling God that I'm sorry, I know more than you do.
Yes.
I got this,
Yes.
right? And then it all goes to hell and I'm like, "Oh, poor me." I blame
Totally.
everybody else,
Totally.
right? And that's when your ego steps in and that's when it
Mhm.
gets crazy. Instead of just like, just sit down. I used to say this thing all the time in yoga, when you do nothing, everything happens. And it's true in
Mhm.
every aspect of life. When you do nothing and you sit there and you listen and you hear that voice, or you hear a song on the radio, or you see this billboard that says something, or the purple hat falling from the
Yes,
sky,
yes.
you're like, thank you. I'm on the right path.
For sure. And when you say doing nothing, I think that's so powerful because what we really mean by that is being in stillness,
Yeah.
being in the silence. It's not kicking up and watching
Right.
Netflix
Right.
and diverting your mind away from your
Right.
heart. It's really going inside and being with the feelings, with where you're at right now, and
Yeah.
being peaceful and okay with that. And that's really the test of life that I'm in right now. I was diagnosed with OCD when I was in third grade. As long as I can remember, my brain has been my worst enemy. And
Everybody's worst enemy.
everybody's worst
Yeah.
enemy. And I think instead of ever learning tools to shift my mindset and my thoughts, I learned doing and achieving
Right.
gets praise. And so it was like this positive reinforcement that I learned at such a young age, which is just society, that got me even further away from myself. So honestly, it wasn't until, and I'm still trying to get there and hear my inner voice
Yeah.
again. But that Elle Macpherson book that
Yeah.
you recommended, I thought was so powerful in the section she was talking about speaking in like AA and recovery. And she was saying it was never about sobriety as much as it was about being able to hear her inner
Yeah.
source and get back to that source energy and that inner voice. And that is what I'm working towards because I lost it and I made decisions and did things that are so outside myself that I'm not proud of. And I got to learn to let that go and learn to just be in this space and hear again. And it's only going to happen when you slow it down and you're still.
Yeah. But, think about it. If you didn't do some of those things that you're not proud of, maybe we wouldn't have met.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And I would still be in this space of such misalignment.
Yeah. I think that we really have to focus on giving ourselves grace.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Exactly.
I think you should sit with it and cry about it and scream about it and be angry about it and feel all the feels that you need to feel. And then you have to say, okay, well, how bad do I want to feel good? What can I do right now in this moment?
Mm,
Right. And not scroll on your phone
totally.
and not turn on Netflix. Right. Just sit down, take a walk. Like I see everybody. My husband and I were just out to dinner and the couples were sitting on their phone.
It's this lack of presence that has
Right.
become such an addiction in
Yeah.
itself and gets us so far away from.
Yeah, we just don't we actually, when my husband gets home from work, he plugs his phone in another room, and as you know, I don't have my phone. It's like we're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't bother with our phones. And it's
Mhm.
annoying to people that want to get a hold of us sometimes, but it's a distraction for our relationship.
Yeah.
And our relationship has gotten so much stronger
Mhm.
because of that.
Because you've cultivated an ability to be present
Yeah.
with each other.
Yeah.
And that is so rare in this society currently. It's a learned practice to
It
be
is.
present.
We weren't like that before. So there's hope.
And how can you even notice the signs, the purple hat, all the things if you aren't present?
Right.
And when you do start to be present and you start to see little things, it's all the validation in the world that the work is worth it.
I
So
think
powerful.
everything in life is a sign.
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion, for myself, it's breadcrumbs. Everything is a breadcrumb, and
Mhm.
you can decide if you want to follow or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And I look at it like that.
And you will have a visceral physical reaction when you are in alignment. It's a peace, it's a
Mm.
calm, it's the opposite of the panic attack that you described.
Yeah.
And if you remember that day up at dawn,
Yeah.
when did you guys did a healing on me? We did a healing meditation.
Oh, God, yeah.
And
Oh, my gosh.
we had a very powerful experience. I came in really energetically charged in a negative way, and we did this healing, and I just was saying, I feel so misaligned in my career right now, and I just don't even know why I feel like I have to be here, like why I feel like I have to keep giving so much to this job that had served me and was a blessing, but now isn't aligned. And you simply said, Allison, you don't need to have that job if you don't want that job and if it doesn't align with you. And it was the first time I was like, wait, I don't? And this, you were the one who even told me that I realized after the fact, this like sigh of relief that
Yeah.
came out of me. I was just like, wait, I can make a change and trust myself that even if I don't know exactly what comes next, that I can make a change and I can be okay. And then I resigned that day,
I know. And
because
we were on the phone after we left. We were on the phone then, and you're like, "Well, what do I say? What do I do? Okay, I'm going to write it now." And I'm like, "Oh my God, hit send!" And I'm like, "Oh God."
And it definitely doesn't take, I was in a unique experience. I had a unique situation. It doesn't take blowing up your entire life
Right.
to find inner peace. And I think that's something that I want to talk a bit about, because for me, I was at a place where I had built up such an identity in what became so misaligned with me that it was just a tipping point and it was time for a shift. And I was fighting myself for years.
But all the signs were there. You
All
just
the
didn't want to see
signs were
them.
there. And it was years of me feeling like I want to do something different. I need to make a change. Financially, I could make a change. I don't have children right now. If I am going to make a shift, this is a good time to do it. But I was never going to take the step without
And
trusting
you could
myself.
always go back to a
And I could
different.
always,
You had people searching for you right when you quit.
yeah.
Like, and you kept saying, "I don't know if I did the right thing." Go back.
Exactly.
Like, it's okay.
It's okay to do something different and try something new. And in my heart, I just trusted myself.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, you got to do this, but I couldn't take the step. And every day it's still a challenge of me learning to trust myself again. But that was a huge change for me that I think is a catalyst for a lot of additional change that's followed since, because I'm like, if I can make this kind of a decision, I can make other decisions now too. When I was living so stagnant and so scared to make a change for so long, think we get so used to trying to create something that's permanent when life is impermanent, and change is actually such a beautiful thing, but we resist it so strong, and that keeps us so stuck from anything else that we could bring to light.
And all the people that you've met and touched and influenced since you left your job.
I mean, the experience that I've had since,
Yeah.
and I think about it all the time. Like, if I do go back to corporate in some facet in the future, that's not off the table, but I will be a different person when I go into it.
Right.
And it will be such a new conscious experience than feeling how I felt before, which was trying to change myself or morph myself into a version of me that wasn't authentic.
Right.
And so I'm so proud of myself for making the change. And I think it took that one thing that I could be proud of to start to get momentum on maybe there's other things that I could bring to the world. I just got to remember that when I'm on the river.
Right. I told you, give yourself a year.
I know. And are the type of friend that, it was so funny. Last night, as I was opening up my insight timer to do my meditation before bed, it always pops up a quote when you first open it. And it said, "A friend's eye is a good mirror," which is an Irish proverb. And I was like, that's Lisa. What I love about you is you don't just gas me up, which is a great quality.
Sometimes I do the opposite.
Everyone, you are so loving and supportive, but you tell me the hard things I need to hear. And that is the mark of a real friendship in life. It's not always roses. And
No.
if you aren't willing to look at the parts of yourself that do need to change, you just stay stuck. And I'm so grateful for you in that sense, because you always do give me that advice and that hard truth sometimes that gets me back to it. I mean, the day that I left corporate, you told me, and then I'm moving, I did all of these things to kind of like shed the weight of who I felt like I wasn't, to start to move towards new Allison. And your number one piece of advice that you told me no less than 50,000 times was, you have to be still. You've got to like reel it in, and you have to take some time to be in this space with yourself. And I did the opposite for quite some time.
Yes.
And I think that's why I kind of have like come to this crossroads again of being like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, I'm lost. And
I say, are you sitting still?
And you remind me.
And you're like, no.
You're like, have you unpacked your boxes since you moved yet? Which I should have done in December.
And no, you haven't. And, I wouldn't have known that you haven't unpacked your boxes if I wouldn't have come over there that day. Remember?
No.
I came over to drop off the yoga
yes.
stuff for you. And I'm like, your whole entire garage is filled with boxes that you've never unpacked from moving, not even unpacked from their first move.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, I understand how you're feeling.
And that's such a analogy for my life.
It is.
I think I kind of wanted to just leap into new version of me without unpacking these things I was carrying. And as I've started to unpack physically the boxes, I'm also unpacking emotionally and spiritually these learned patterns, these unhealthy habits, these do energy that isn't serving me. And it's such a beautiful visual alignment that I'm working towards now. And it's really empowered me in just the last week of unpacking. I honestly feel like I've shifted timelines in the last week.
Like we talked about, you don't think it's going to have that big of an impact. But for me, because I'm very organized, as you know, a little OCD. But when I have stuff all over the place, it makes my thoughts all over the place. So clean up your space, make your space tidy and neat, make your space how you want to be reflected in the world, right? And with all your stuff, I mean, of course your head is all over the place. Of course you're trying to do 10,000 things. You're all boxed up. Like
totally.
You're scrambling.
Yeah.
And then as you unpacked, you were texting me and you're like, oh my God, I feel so good. Like, I can't believe I have this. I got rid of this. I don't even need this, because I did tell you that I would come over every single day until
every single day.
Until
sometimes you text me, you're like, how many boxes have you gone through today? I'm like, fuck, I have to go down there.
But the last picture was really nice.
I know, I'm making headway.
Yeah.
I think my garbage guys, I could like hear them out there on Monday morning, just like, what the hell is going on here? Because I had just like boxes and boxes and boxes that they had to take away.
Yeah.
Of empty shit.
There was a lot.
Yeah. And it's like I've been also looking at my life and being like, what am I not unpacking? What am I not addressing that I need to? What am I running at and doing and being pulled in a million directions that that's taking me away from my focus that I need to be on right now? And it's a process, but I really do feel this renewed sense of energy since our conversation, since starting to just get my internal self in order and organized, and my thoughts organized. And I feel like I can show up in such a more confident way and say, I am still on the path to new Allison, but I'm going. and
Right.
I'm proud to be going.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do the work that it takes to get there. I'm on mile 13 right now and I'm going.
You know, it's sometimes we do take a detour,
Yeah.
but it's okay because it's a different scenery
Hmm.
and you learn something on that one and then you're like, "Well, I'm done with that." And we turn around and we come back on the path and we're like, "Ah, okay.
Totally.
Let's just begin again."
Just begin again.
Right?
Exactly.
That's all we can do is begin
Yes,
again. If it doesn't work, throw it out, try something else,
totally.
you know?
And you're so right about the pushing. I think we need to like
Yeah.
force, but when you just embody, it attracts.
Yeah.
And that's powerful.
Yeah, when we hold on to stuff, well, when I was holding on to my salon, everything was going crazy with my body and stuff was just shutting down. And it was a grieving process after I sold my hair salon. And then in January, when I let go of teaching and all the things, it was like this big breath, like I don't have to do that anymore.
Hmm.
I don't
Totally.
have to prove anything to anybody, you
Hmm.
know? And it just opened up a whole different person inside of me that I was like, "Oh, this feels really good. This feels like home."
And you are such an inspiration and a walking example of what can bloom from the space and the peace and the stillness. And I've watched you over the last 6 months shed things that were no longer in alignment with conviction and grace and going from, I mean, you were truly changing people's lives and doing such important work with the Reiki that you were doing and the life coaching that you were doing. But you listened to your inner voice that this needed to shift and you were meant for something different and you had no idea what that was at the time, but you just trusted the process and you went quiet and now you're in the process of bringing your next creation to life. That's something so different
So different.
than what anyone will expect from you.
No one will I didn't expect it from myself.
I know.
It was not the category that I had in a box that I was gonna check off.
And when you think about the amount of people who you are going to touch with the
I
creation that
hope
you're
so.
bringing to the world, it's tenfold, 100-fold than those individual clients that you
Yeah.
were holding space
It's a
for
different
coming in your
energy.
door. And that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, it's a way different energy because to be 100% transparent, that energy of we call her old Lisa was just so ego driven and a taker,
Yeah.
like a taker of light
Yes.
and shifting gears and going into that place of being a giver of light.
Mhm.
You know, not a giver of all the things, but a giver of light, a giver of love from an open space, from a place of true vulnerability. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. When we look at things in that simple mindset of am I giving or am I
Yeah.
taking? When you lead with that intention, whether it's something that you're consuming, whether it's a relationship, whether it's something you're creating, if you think about it in that sense, it's really easy to see what's positive and what's not.
Yeah. Yeah. You know when you're taken.
You know when you're taking, and you know when someone's taking from you.
Yeah, you know. You might not want to
Admit
own
it.
up to it,
Totally.
right? And own all your shit with it because that opens a can of worms that you don't even want to go into, right? And then you pick up your habit, your addiction, and then you go back in the cycle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's this whole thing of being here. I just had somebody say, I'm so lost, I don't know what my purpose is. And I believe that your purpose is to be here right now, in this moment, having a conversation with you. That's my purpose
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be anything bigger or grander or whatever people think a purpose is. It's to be present in the moment because at the end of time, at the end of your days here, the only thing that's going to matter is how much you loved.
Really.
That's it.
That's so true.
Nothing.
You can't take your material things with
Yeah.
you. You don't take your money with you. You don't take your fame with you, your recognition, your ego. So true.
And if you love and you give from a place of pure heart with that intention of not expecting anything back, your world opens up and everything in your life will flow to you and for you and through you.
So true. So profound.
Yeah.
So, what are in your day to day practice, would
Mm.
you say are the most important pillars that,
My daily practice, you know what that entails.
yeah, but so like basic. So, what are the things that you do on a day to day basis to stay inside your heart?
Well, first is meditation right when I wake up.
Okay.
Non-negotiable. All my things are non-negotiable,
Mhm.
by the way. You know, I take care of myself with nutrition too. I
Mhm.
make sure that that is really good. My other non-negotiable is I do breath work, my sauna. I have infrared sauna that I love. I journal every single day. I have movement every single day. I also do foam roller and rebounding every day to move lymph and to move emotions out of my body.
Love that.
Those are probably
The core staples.
the core staples that I do every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, non-negotiable.
Love that. Every time I'm feeling outside of myself, Lisa says,
I'm scared.
you say, go sit down and do changing boxes. And changing boxes is the name of one of Dr. Joe's meditations. We did the long version at our retreat, and there's a short version that's really powerful. And
Like 20 minutes.
it's only
Like
maybe 20 to 30 minutes.
Yes, that's gotta be long though for people that, but I'm like only 20 minutes.
Yeah. But when you think about your day in the scheme of things, how fast 20 minutes goes when you're scrolling on TikTok, it puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it does.
And what I love about it is guided. And to me, it's, especially for a beginner, easier to do a guided meditation than to just sit in dead silence.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And of all of his meditations, it, may be overwhelming when you first go to the website and you're like, where do I choose? That is a great one to purchase and have in your arsenal, in your toolbox to do on a day-to-day basis. And especially those days where you're feeling misaligned, because it's a mental representation of shifting out of one mindset that's not serving you and shifting into one that does. Again, the metaphor for life for me right now. Opening those boxes and getting out with the old and into the new. It really is so powerful. So if we can encourage you guys to do one thing to raise your mindfulness that's attainable. Yeah. Changing boxes is such a good one. I remember when we first came back, you're like, I think this is like a daily thing.
It is a daily afternoon thing. If I don't do changing boxes every afternoon, I do just seated quiet. Those are my two go-tos.
Yeah. So many of us default in a anxious space because of the external environment that we're living in. It's just inevitable. And this type of work is training for our brains to live healthier and happier. And that's such a core tenet of what I'm working on. And to me, when it comes to detoxing, it's the focus of my life right now. When I first met you, you said, Allison, you could do all these things to detox physically, but we got to cheeky up your inside.
Yeah.
And that's where powerful change happens, because then you're able to make conscious, intentional choices from your heart.
Percent. Yeah.
Happy 57th birthday.
Thank you.
I mean, is Lisa not goals for real? Like, you're so hot. I remember, I'm like, I want to have arms like yours now. And you're out here fucking killing it. So
Thank you.
truly,
Sweet.
but like your heart more than anything is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Something weird today that I was going to say earlier in the podcast, but I usually podcast on Thursdays.
Right.
It's like kind of just become the routine. And it just worked out that you had Wednesday available. So we had planned to do this today. And coincidentally, today is the 9th anniversary of my mom's passing. And I just feel that is so profound, because I really do feel like she had some sort of hand in helping you come into my life.
Me too.
And I know we both feel that. So I want to keep sharing more about my mom's story, because it is something that was such a life-changing experience for me. And I think more people can learn from knowing what resources can be available for families when going through such a hard time. And I struggle often with not wanting to make other people feel uncomfortable and or not living in a victim mindset. But I am so grateful for what her life's experience taught me. And even though she's not here today, I know she and a higher power are orchestrating people like yourselves coming into my life. And I look at you like a mother figure.
I'm old enough to be your mother.
Well, you're hotter than me, so.
Stop it.
But
Please.
I thought that was so divine.
Yeah, it is.
And
it is.
I'm
Because
just
it's
so
lilacs,
grateful.
right? Yeah. Because remember when I did Reiki on you, I said, I see lilacs. Remember that?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's my mom's favorite flower.
Yeah.
in mine.
And then you took a picture, you had lilacs that you just bought, and you had a vase of them in your
Yeah.
apartment or condo, wherever you
Yeah.
were living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's just how spirit works.
it's just how spirit works.
Yeah.
It's so
You don't
powerful.
question, you just go with it,
You just go with it.
pass it along.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I love you, adore you.
I love you
I'm so proud
much.
of you.
Oh my gosh. I'm so grateful and proud of you.
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to have you on again when we unveil your creation to the world.
Uh,
Sooner than later, TBD,
Yeah.
GPs.
I'm excited.
But no, I hope people can take inspiration from the conversation
Yeah.
today. Every conversation we have helps me feel grounded and more rooted in life. And just knowing that someone like you came into my world is divine in itself. So it's my honor to share our light with the world.
And I'm really honored that you came into my life. I mean, you've taught me a lot, even though you don't think that or know that, but you have.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thanks for being here, Lisa. Thank you guys so much for being here today. The law of attraction states that your thoughts become things. When we truly start to notice and shift the patterns that we've picked up internally from negative to positive, we truly can shift our entire realities. Changing boxes is more than just unpacking material things. It's about changing the way that we show up in the world, and more importantly, the way that we think. It's my honor to share these deep conversations, and I will always leave resources in the show notes from what we discussed. Make sure you take a peek at them and dig deeper on your journey to your highest version. If you liked this episode today, please like and subscribe and leave a 5-star review. You can go deeper with me on my new Substack page, and please also join the community and follow me at The Cheeky Clean. I have a wealth of resources for you to take your power back and gain knowledge and tools to detoxify body, mind, and soul and become your most empowered version. Every conversation makes my heart explode, and I'm so grateful to share them with you. Thank you, Cheekies, always. Until next week, I'll see you soon.